Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial. My name is Joseph Abba. Thank you for stopping by on my channel. Please, if you've not subscribed to my channel, kindly do so. Today we are here to build this application that is on my screen. It's a Hacker News clone. It's a very simple app but really functional. It has comments. You can sign up. You can sign in. We should go ahead now and sign up. John Ado, and I just put a password right away, create account. We can use it to log in. Now I'm logged in. We can submit news. We can comment. We can upvote. For instance, let's upvote this one. We can paginate, right? You can also search. Let's search for tech. You see all the articles with tech. You can sort by popularity, which is the number of votes. You can change the page size. Let's do 20. This is great application, something like very important. It has end-to-end process of building web applications in Go. So stick with me and let's start coding. All right, let's start by creating a new Go module, Go mod init, github.com/my username jofazi hacker news. I can just name it H News. Shorter. All right, let's make some directory. Make dir pcmd/web. Make dir views. What else do I want to make? Make dir models. Let's touch make file. Okay, so we have what we have is CMD directory, models, views, and the make file. The make file, what I want to do is to say run, and that will be go run cmd/web. This simple. So when we come here, we just type make run to run the application. At the moment, we have nothing in that directory, so let's go and make it an application main. So this is the entry point of our program. I can type a hello world now. Let's run, make run again, make run. We should see hello world. Fantastic, we're making progress. I want to start by adding some types. Let's start with the application type. This is where we register our dependencies. It's of type struct. When you are building web applications in Go, the easiest way to manage your dependency is creating a type like a struct type and register all your dependencies. Then that type is shared among your handlers or other part of your application. The first thing I want to do is have like the name of the app. I also want to have a server type, which I am going to create shortly, if we're in debug mode or not. What else? I will need like loggers, info log. If you are new to web development in Go, this is actually like very standard way of doing things. This idea of having a type and properties, and then you go and initialize it, and so on and so forth, really standard. So I go here and I can create this type now, struct. It's a very simple type. You're just going to have a host. It's going to have port. It's going to have a URL. And that's about it. I want us to bring in the routing. In any web application, you need a way for people to access your pages or your endpoints, right? when a request comes to the home page, let's say /home, which is this default slash, you need to execute a function or method in your code. So something needs to be responsible for that, which is called HTTP multiplexer, or short MUX for short. So we have Chai, which is a very simple, lightweight HTTP multiplexer that you can use to solve that problem. I will go ahead and copy the install instruction and have it installed. Now we have added it to our project. How do we use it? Simple. Let me create another file here called route. In this route that I've created, let's take out this. I'm going to say func routes. Let's return a HTTP handler. I'm going to create a MUX, which is going to be chai new router, and then let's return the MUX. This is really simple. For now, I'm just going to say MUX get. So when requests come to the home page, what should happen? We want to run this function that I'm currently passing inline, right? So I'm going to name it W and R for requests. For now, I'm just going to do w.write. Let's write some bytes. We can just say a.appname, which is something we need to configure really soon. Next step is, how do we display this? Let me put another file here called server and do func application. Let's do listing. Since we are in the same package, we can do listing and serve. And I want to have like error here. What should happen? We need a server, which is going to be HTTP server. It's a struct. We need the handler. Our handler will be a routes. So this is our route. The address that we want to list in, let's call it host. I'm going to create this variable in a minute. Our host is going to be equal to forms printf host :port. You know, we have it in a.server.host, a.server.port. Right? You have other stuffs to configure. For instance, TLS, read timeout. You want to do it, you just come here and say read timeout. Let's say 300 times time.seconds. You can configure other fields that way. Since we have this, I won't do much. I'm going to come a.infolog print f listening, let's say server listening on. I'm just going to tag this along and put host. It also makes sense to put a new line. I'm going to return srv.listen and serve. That gives us our server. Next step is, let's go to the home. We need to create an instance of this application, right? So let's go and do it. I'm going to say app. I can tag this along as application just to make a single instance. What do we need? Server. For now, I'm going to say server. We also need server host. Let's just put localhost. We are going to change this shortly. Port. Let me put 009. URL http://localhost. Don't worry about the repetition, we'll fix that shortly. 009, right? So we have the server set up there, and server. What else? We need to change the app name. I'm going to say hnews. Debug. I'm going to set debug to true. Let's see what else we can set. Loggers. Let me set info log to be log.new. Always, we want to log to the standard output, so I'll say this. My prefix will be info tab. Then what do I want to log? I want to log the time. I want to log the date, LDate. I also want to log the short file name. So we want to do like almost the same thing for the error log, but of course we want this to go to std error, and we want the prefix to be error. We want to use the long file so we know the full path of where the error is coming from. I think that is about it that we need to change here. Next thing I want to do is to say if error app.listing and style, right, is not equal to name, at this point we can say log fatal error, right? Then we can, let's take out this one. Everything looks good so far. Time to run our app. Make run. Fingers crossed. Great. At least we are seeing the log. We're seeing the date and time, the file name where it's coming from, and this is our log message. I don't know about you, but this feels really good. Time to run it and see. So let me open a new tab, bring it over here, http://localhost and 8009. That's where we are. We have the H news. Don't remember that was the name of the application that we set. So we have it. Everything works. Let's add another route. mux.get comments and this. I'm just going to copy this over and I will say comments. Going to stop the server, start it again, refresh. That looks good. Comments, great. Now in just a few minutes we have been able to configure our server, have our routing working. Everything looks really good. Let's go to that child page to bring on some middleware. So I want to copy all these middlewares and bring it over to this route. Paste the middlewares. We need to replace this R with mux to register those middlewares. For this logger, I only want to use the logger if we are in debug mode. So if a debug, let me see the name of the middleware, logger, then mux.use logger. This is great. Let me show you the effect of that. We start the server and let's refresh one of our pages. Go back, you see this is coming directly from that logger. Very good. Next step is how to render templates. We're bringing things in gradually. Let's go to our browser and look at the Jet template engine for Go. So this is Jet. I'm going to copy the install instruction. We can go to the main page for you to see what it looks like. Jet template engine for Go is very similar to Blade in Laravel or Twig. Very similar. It has the C syntax style that we are all used to. So if you want, you just go to the syntax reference and you see all the syntax right here. This is, I'm going to have this open so that we can continue coming back to it. Now let's go to our terminal. Let me run go get. Okay. While that is installing, is done installed. Like, how do we add this dependency? Now that we have the library installed, how do we use it? Easy stuff. Let's go here. I'm going to call it a view, and I say jet sets, right? This is something I figured from the documentation, right? I'm doing this because I have read the documentation, I have used it. So when you are using a library for the first time, you want to spend some time looking at the documentation, looking at the examples. Yeah. All right. So now that we have view, we need to configure it. I'm going to come here before I start the server, and I would say if app.debug, if we're in debug mode, I want to do something else, right? So what I want to do now, I say app.view is equal to jet.newSet, right? What set do we want? We want the new jet new OS file system loader, because we want to load our template from this directory. Also, while we are in debug mode, I want hot reloading. That means when we don't have to restart our server to see changes in the template. We can keep our server running, change something in the template, and see the result right there. So I'm going to say jet.inDevelopment. Great. Else, I just want only this one. I don't want to have the in development. That means it's going to pre-compile. That's all I want to do regarding jet here. But we need a helper method. In order for us to render pages, I want us to add a helper method to simplify the rendering process. So let me add render. This render method is going to be really simple. Render. It takes a HTTP response writer. It takes a request. What else? The name of the view. So let's call it view. There's no name clash, right? Yep. Let's call it view. Then vars, which is going to be jet map. This is what we need to populate. Now that we have this method, I also want to add another method. This method is just a helper method for us to set some variables that more like global variables for our template. Global variables are variables that are always available irrespective of your context. So let me go and say func a, which is pointer to our application. So we are using a pointer receiver, default data, that's what we are going to call this. And default data, let's call it template data. We'll create this data structure shortly. And then we need the HTTP request. We are adding this HTTP request because I need to pull session data from it later. So we also need to return this template data. So it's just like a middleware. This template data is type struct, right? What do we want inside here? I want the URL of the app. Very important that you have this up capitalized. So the first letter must be uppercase. If not, the template won't see it. It needs to be exported. URL is authenticated, which is bool. What else we need? The auth user going to be string. We need flash messages. This is going to be string. We need error message, which I will also make a string. We are going to need a cross-site request forgery token, which is going to be a string as well. Fantastic. For now, I'm going to return TD, just this one. We've not touched anything. We've not made any modification at all. Maybe we can just do something really small by saying td.url is coming from app.server.url, just to have the URL in the template, right? We'll come back to this method soon, but for now, this is enough. Now, let's go into our render method and add the code. Let's create the template data, which is going to be reference. And then I am going to say td is equal to a default data, which is this one. Apply it, td, and we pass in the request. Basically, we are applying it. It's like a middleware. I don't think about this too much. If you have another way to pass the data, it's fine. Now, the template itself, error is equal to a.view.getTemplate, from where we already have the directory that we are loading from. So in that directory, we want to load something.html, which is the view that we are passing right here. So like index.html and all that. If we have an error, we want to return that error, right? So we need to return an error here. What else? Now that we have the template, we need to execute it by saying if error is equal to tp.execute. We're executing it against the writer, which is response writer. We are writing to them. Vars template data. If error is not new, we just return it again. Else, we return new. Looks good to me. This is the right time to go in here, create index, put a h1, hello world from template. And we go into the routes. In the home page, we can now say error is now equal to a.render. What we have, we need the name of the view, which is index. For now, let's pass name. If error is not equal to name, I want to just log fatal for now. Right? Time to reload the server and see what we have. No errors. So let's go here, refresh. This is the comment. Let's go to the home page, and fantastic. We are able to load our template. Let's look at something. I'm going to go in there and change something. Let's say, let's put that .url. Refresh, and we have the URL. You see why we have this going on here, this data that we have. You see that we are able to access it from the template as well. Fantastic. We've made progress. Next step is to bring on session. The session library is a very simple library, which is right here. This one. So I'm going to go in, stop the server, go get it, and then let's add the dependency. When you bring in a new dependency, you have to come and add it here. So I'm going to come here and I say session is going to be scs.sessionManager. Right? Straightforward. Now we need to initialize it. Initializing it is actually quite simple. Before we start the server, we can two ways. One, we can create a different method to do the initialization. Let's say func a init session, but I'm just going to put everything here and I say init session. Let's also have init get template and jet, right? We have that. So I'm going to say app.session is equal to scs.new. That gives us the session. We have some properties that we need to set. Instead of typing it all over, let me just copy the properties over and then I can explain them. All right, so we have the new lifetime of the session before it expires and all that. The name, so let's bring this one from app.server.host as a domain, and that's all. We still need one more thing, the store, but we need to be connected to the database before we do. But I want us to test this session. When you come to the home page, I want to set a session here. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do app, which is A now, dot session dot put r.context. That context is coming from this request. What we want to put, let's call it test, and put Abba Joseph as the test. Great. So we set our session here, and I want to come in here and grab that session. So I need to render this same file. What have I done that blew it up? I want to copy this. Okay, but we need the var, we need a way to pass this data. So I'm going to say var make get var map, then I'll say var.set, what do we call it, test, yeah, test, and I would say a.session.getString, there is a get string, r context, what is the name of the key we set is test. All right, then we go into the home page, then we put it as, let me put a paragraph, then strong, and I say session is, this is one, right? Let's run it and see what happens. Now I refresh, it didn't work. It's saying, let me show you what's going on. Say no session data in context. Why? Makes sense. Makes sense because we need a middleware to use our session. So let's create another file here called middleware. I want to do func application. Let's call it load session. Next is HTTP handler. HTTP handler. That is how middlewares work. You take something in and you spit out the same thing modified, or you add new things, add some value to context or something like that, right? It's just like a chain. Basically, what I'm going to do is to return a.session.load and save. This is coming directly from the session package, so I have the nest attached to it there. When we go to our routes, up right here, I'm just going to say mux use a.load session. Let's restart the app. Let's restart. Great. Reload the site, and we have a different error. It's saying token. Now let's see where this is coming from. From the index, we have a syntax error. Run it again. We still have error. It's telling us that test not available. Great, no problem. The value test, think about this. If you look at routes in index, the first time that we render index.html, which is here, we are not sending any data to the template. That means a variable test hasn't been declared and initialized, so it is not available in the template. In order for us, we can solve the problem by first checking that, let's say, if is set test. I think they got this from PHP. Run it, and then I can go ahead, reload. Now it works. But then when we go to comments, we should see the value from session. Fantastic. We are 100% sure our session is working. Next is database. For the database, I want to use this library, a productive data access layer for Go, upper/db. Very powerful library for Go. What I'm going to use, I'll be using the Postgres adapter. So I'm going to copy everything like this and go to my terminal, run go get, and have it in. Go get installing. Why it's installing? Let's go here and click on getting started to look around a little bit. You see, you first of all need to configure it, connect. Then when you open the connection, you don't have access to it. You can just call collection, the name of your table, find and do something with it. Really simple, but very powerful, right? So what I'm going to do now is to start working on the database connection. So let's go to our main. Let me come down here and start a new function. So func OpenDB, right? That is Open Database Connection. The data source name, which is the string that you use to connect to your database. Nothing special about it. Data source name. When we connect to the database, we want to return SQL.db, a pointer to SQL.db, and an error, maybe if we have an error or something, right? So I'm going to say db error is equal to what? SQL.open. Then we want to use the Postgres adapter, and then pass the DSN. Check for error. If we have an error, we want to return nil and the error. Else, we are almost there. I'm going to say db.ping. You also have ping with context in case you want to do timeout and all that. For production, I usually use ping with context. So ping, if the ping is not successful, this is actually the time that you touch the database. If it's not successful, we want to return nil and an error, right? After that, we are free to return the db and nil. Simple stuff. We are now connected to the database. So I'm going to come up right here and say, now that we have our app created, before we even create our app, let's try to connect to the database. So I'm going to say db error instead of, let's say database, because the upper library has a db, which this one exposed. So I don't want to overwrite it by using the db variable name. So I can call it, or I can change the imported variable instead of db from upper, we can call it upper. So I think we should go ahead and use our db error, open db, what the data source name. I'm going to leave it blank for now and say if error is not nil, log fatal error. Now that we have our database, we want to defer the closing of that. db.close. Okay, it's complaining because this also returns an error. Interesting, right? What else we want to do? Now that we have our database, we can come here and change the store. Instead of using cookie, let's go back to where is that session manager. We can go in here quickly. Where is Postgres? Postgres store. Open it. Great. This is Postgres store. I have this table I'm going to show you shortly. So let's copy this. This is what we need. So go get this one. Install it. Let me close this guy down. While it's installing, what we need when you come here, this is all you need. So I'm going to come here and do app.session.dat, right? And we pass our DB. Now our session data will be stored in database, right? So far, so good. What else we need to do? We need to configure upper. And configuring upper is not that difficult, since what we want to do So let's come here and say when after we make the connection, we can create our application, or we can just do the upper right here, say upper error PostgreSQL.new, and what do you give to you? Give it a DB. So we also check for an error here. It's going to reuse this connection, so we are not duplicating anything, but you need to close it as well. Defer upper.close. Let's wrap this in error handling. Log.filter. All right. There's something I want to do. Where is the... It's not going to work here because we need something. Let me show you what we need. We need to bring in the Postgres adapter. So I'm going to just type it here like this in order for it to work. I think that is it. We should be good, hopefully, but I'm not seeing the upper installation yet. So let's see. Let's go to the documentation quickly to see what we should be importing that we've not imported. And this is what we should be importing, I guess. And so I'm going to bring this, and can we name it DB2? Okay, it looks like it's saying DB. It's getting this DB from here, which is what I was trying to avoid. So we can rename ours as DB2 this way to solve that problem, right? And we are good now. All right, let's restart the app and see what we have. And then I will do a recap. Use of package DB not in selector. Let's see where the error is coming from. DB2. We renamed it, run it again. SSL is not enabled. Yeah, this is Postgres, and because we are not putting the right data source name here, let me copy it over. It's very long and I don't want to type it, so I'm just going to copy it over for now. We'll come and do like refactoring, move all these things to flags later, but for now, it should be fine. So this is the adapter, username, password, localhost, the database name, and then SSL mode is disabled because we are not using SSL. Let's go here and refresh our website. It looks good. Everything works. Let's go to the home page and go to comment. You see our session is still working. Fantastic. Let's see what we have achieved so far. Let me close this down. We created a type. In that type, we have some dependencies, especially this external one, views, session managers, and of course our loggers. Then we also have this server type, which is just host, port, and URL. We first of all created an instance of the server. We open connection to our database. We initialize upper. So init upper/db. And we initialize our application itself, setting up everything. And here we initialize the jet templating engine by loading template from views. If we're in a development mode, we tag in this in development mode. After that, we initialize sessions. And right towards the end of the code, we started our server. Very straightforward so far. I guess the only thing that you might be, struggling with is how are we receiving the endpoints? We are receiving the endpoints in our routes. Don't forget this listing and serve, we created that method right here. And in the listing and serve, we are creating an instance of HTTP server registering our routes right there. And that is how we are able to access the routes that we've registered here, right? So it's a very simple process. This our routes method is registering all the routes and returning them as HTTP handler. Then we bind it here, and that is it. So far, so good. Next step, we want to bring most of the templates here. I'm not going to type all the HTML, so I will be bringing the templates, then explain what is inside. So we focus on coding in Go, while HTML is something really trivial that we don't want to waste our time on, right? So let's work with those static assets. Open the routes. At the moment, when you go to, let's say, static or public, there's nothing. There's no way to say public slash, let's say, CSS slash styles.css. And we don't have anything like that, right? That was a catch, but there's nothing like that at the moment. Let's fix that. I want to delete everything that we have here. I want to clean this place up a little bit, right? And let me start by creating a file server, which is HTTP file server. There's nothing really magical about this. Just give it a directory that we want to load our files from. It's coming from /public. We are going to create our folder shortly. What next? The mux.handle, we are telling it that handle this request that goes to public / anything. Let's do this strip prefix, and we just pass in the file server. That's all. What I want to do now is to copy over the content in that public directory, which is mostly static content. So I'm going to go into my file directory and bring them over. So just give me a minute. So I copied the static asset, paste it. You see I have a CSS, which is your style. You see all the CSS that we have for the pages, and just like small images here and there, like the full logos and all that, right? There's nothing too complicated there. And I'm going to leave everything in the repository so you have access to them now. Refresh. The server is currently not running, so let's go run the server. I can move this guy down. Refresh, and now we are able to render static data. Now that we can render static data, it's also possible for us now to start working on database and start rendering templates, right? So let's go ahead and create a models, make the models. We already have models, right? Fantastic. So create a models file. And let's create a type, models. I want to also create a function called func new models, or just new. It returns what? It returns a model. And for now, I'm just going to say models. What does it take? Let's give it access to db.session, which is the upper database, right? So let's go to our web main and add models as dependency. So I'm going to capitalize this because I just want the name to match. It's nothing special about it. Right here, then when I come here, I'm going to say models.new and pass it the upper that we have. Great. Now we have a way to access this upper from our models. Let me show you how. Remember this, see what we are doing here. Let's create users. Right. Let me just do type users model struct. Users model is going to depend on that DB session. right? And this is where we are going to add all our functions. So let's say M for model and users model. Let's say get. And for now, we just keep it this way. So in order for us to access this, we are going to go into models and we add it. Let's say users becomes users model. And say users become users model DB is DB. You see, now we have been able to pass it. In your users model, you have access to m.db.anything like collections. Let's say collection, you can go to the users table. And then when you have the table, you can find something, say DB that it's coming DB cond. And let's say you want to find by ID, put the ID there and you say 1. And you're able to grab the data. This is what we are going to do. So I'll come back to this shortly. All right. But one of the greatest thing about this approach is when you go to your routes, let's create a file here called handlers now. And I say func a application home handler W is HTTP response writer, R is pointer to requests, and what we can do is when you say a.models, now you have .users and you can do .get. You have access to your models and you can mock this if you want. Instead of your application depending on these models directly, you can change to some kind of interface, right, to mock the behavior. Really, really good. Now let's go back to our model and start bringing in all the methods. But before we do that, let's just pause a little bit. We need the tables to be in our database. So I'm going to, because I'm using Postgres, I'll type PSQL and I say create database hnews. I hope there's no database like that. Great. So hnews is my database. And I'll exit my database. Let me go to main to make sure I have that hnews right there. What else? We need to have the table in there. So we can do it several ways. I think to make things easier, I'll make migrations. Okay, let me bring in the table. Let's bring our table in, tables.sql. Let me paste the data. Boom. And let's take a quick look at what we have here. This is a users table, just email, name, and password hash. This is the post table with just title, URL, the user that posted and created that. And I have one for comments, very similar to post. You have body, post ID, user ID. For votes, and this is for the session. All right, so this is the SQL. I'm going to save it. I want to go in here and write a small function that helps us run migration. So func migrate, and I'm going to take db session as an argument. Right, I think that's it. I want to make sure we're going to have a db variable exposed there, which is fine. Okay, the script we want to run, and the error is coming from os.read file. What do I have? Read file. Let me read file path.join. I want to join. Okay, let's run it directly from here instead of, we are in migrations /tables.sql. Okay, I think that works. If error is not me, I want to return error here. I like to return an error. What else? We have the script here. It's very simple thing now. We don't want the return value, which is like ID and all that. But I want db.sql.exec. Let's see what's going on. Yes, a function exec. So I need the string and script to convert it to a string. At this point, we can return the error. Here, I want to be able to run the migration after we have configured upper. So I can say run migration here. But I want to also go here and do something now. I'm trying to say migrate flag.bool migrate. By default is going to be false, should migrate. I'll say drop all tables, this is the instruction. Right, then we need to call flag.parse. Alright, let me just have a space there. So here I'm going to say if, we need to dereference it. So if migrate, what we need, we're just going to say error is equal to migrate, which we pass in upper. If error is not me, I can do log filter here. Basically what we're doing here, okay, let's see what's going on. Call to non-function migrate that has the type bool. Yeah, I see why. Run migration. We can name this like this. Okay. So when we want to run migration, we can go to the command line and say, first let me add another target here, run/migrate. But it will be go run this migrate, right, equal to true. And that means when you run make run/migrate, you should be seeing migration. Just for the sake of feedback, let's add a message here called okay, that's form.println running migration and done running migration. All right, let's run it. Boom, running migration, done running migration, app started. That means in our database we have these tables, certainly. So we can just refresh our server to make sure everything is still all right. 8009. Everything's still there, but we don't have any routes registered at the moment. Let's go to our routes. You see, there's nothing registered. We only have the static one. We'll come back to this shortly, but this is a great start. We have our tables in the database, and we should start working with the user type at the moment, right? Let's create a type called user with an ID of int, rename of string. We need email, string. We need password, string. We also need created at, which is time.time, and an activated flag, which is a bool. For upper to recognize those fields, we need to add DB tags. If you want to see where all that is coming from, you come down here and click on mapping database records to struct. You see how the mapping is happening. So we need to add these DB tags. I'm going to come here and I say add tags, DB, and then we are going to add omit empty, which basically means this is going to be an auto-generated ID. Don't try to create it for us. Very simple idea. For all the fields that we want to, like that are computed values, needs to have this omit empty. For password, we name it in the database password hash, right? This is everything that I think we need regarding the type itself. Now, this is the model, so we need to continue adding data to this. The first one is why we are here. Let me create a quick method for this. Let's name it table. I'm going to say string return users. That is the name of the table, right? That is out of the way. Then let's work on this get ID. That is what we need. And what are we returning? We are returning a pointer to a user and an error, right? Okay. First, the user that we want to return. I can just go ahead and return it with me. The code should look happy at this point. Next error, we need the M, which is this one, the receiver.this field, which is db. We have a whole lot of method inside collection. The name of the collection is the table name. So we can say m.table. That gives us the collection name. What do we want to do? We want to find something in that table, and the condition we want to use is db.con. This db, don't forget, is coming from upper. So if you want, you can name this upper, right, or something. But he's fine by me. db.con is a map, so ID. So we are basically fetching. It's like select all from users where ID equal to this, right? If we find it, right, one, call this one and pass reference to this U, which is the user that we want to return. What upper is going to do is going to retrieve the user and map it directly to this user type that we've created here. One of the benefit of having this library is you don't have to do the mapping manually by yourself. For me, that is fantastic. Of course, we need to check for error at this point. Return name and error. But we can't just return nil here. Something else could go wrong. Let's say, how about if the error, if errors.is, right? This error could be like maybe if there is no, the user is not in database, it's still going to be an error, but the error that time is db.error, no more records, right? That way, we want to return a customized error type. So I'm going to say name, but I will also say error, no more rows. This will be our own error that we need to define. Let's go to models. I'm going to come up here and I say var errors.new, no record found, right? So we can control how we want the error to be reported, right? So this is great. For me, the get is done. Next, we need to have find by email. I'm going to just copy this over and say find by email, change this to string, change this to email, and everything remains the same. I'm just going to change this to email, change this to email. That is it. We are not going to change anything. Next, we need to do for insert. So I'm going to copy this method here, but we need to change this one a whole lot more. So insert what? We want to insert a user. Let's receive the user as a pointer so we can modify it and return a potential error here, right? Straightforward ID. First thing we want to do is the password. We need to hash the password. So I can say new hash error is equal to bcrypt dot we need to generate from password. So we just pass the bytes that of the password, which is u.password. And the cost, password cost. This we need to create somewhere here, since I don't like to type numbers without, it can be confusing if you just type, for instance, 12 here. If someone is reading your code, they won't understand what 12 is, right? But if you have it, where do we have a password cost? They're just going to know that, oh, okay, it's the encryption cost, right? Better. So if error is not near, of course, we want to return the error. At this point, we have the bytes and we can convert it to string and use it to set as the password, right? So let's do exactly just that. So I'll say u.password is string new hash. Then u.created at time.noun. What else do we need? I think that's about it. Let's grab the collection. Let me call it call m.db.collection m.table. That gives us the collection. This time around, we are doing it line by line. Here, I changed everything, but here it's good to do line by line. So we are going to say response error is equal to collection.insert. Insert what? Insert the U, which is this user that we have already, right? What could go wrong? Well, let's see. If error is not near, we can try to switch some cases. Let's say case, I'm going to create a method here called error has duplicate. And I'll come back to this. And I'm going to say, if error, I'll show you why we are doing this now. User's email key. If this is true, we want to return error duplicate email, right? Default case, the syntax highlighting is no longer working very well because we do not have some of these methods. So if error is not new, we switch. If this is true, we return this. So let's create this one quickly. And we go here, errors.new email already in our database. That's very explicit. Okay. And that is done. Here, let me create this function. Key, I can call this one like the key or something. Basically, what we need here is the string is forms printf. I'm going to copy the error message in here. Let me just copy it over so that I explain to you instead of typing it, because it's a very long message. What we have here, this error, duplicate key value violates unique constraint, is going to come from Postgres. Let me show you why. If you come to our table, this email, we say it should be unique. So it's going to be, the key is going to be users_email_key. And this is the error message you are going to get. So in here, you are going to have that user's email key. For all the fields that we say should be unique, for instance, where else we have unique, like title, for instance, you're probably going to have post_title_key that we need to check for as well. It's important when something deserves to be unique, mark it as a unique and handle it this way, right? So that is it. Now we have this response, which unfortunately, let me show you what's going on. If I say u.id, because we need to set this response.id, we can't set it because an ID is an interface coming from upper and we need to convert it. So I'm going to say convert, let me create a helper method quickly, or a helper function, convert upper ID to int or something like this, and I pass it. Then I'm going to create a function These two functions, because we are going to need them in, let me also return me here at the moment, because we are going to need both of them everywhere. I can bring them into this models.go, so people know that they are sort of used across the context of models. All right, so this one is very easy. I can say ID type. ID type is equal to font. This is how you can easily get data type of any variable. So I put %sign and capital letter T, and then I put the ID. This gives me the type, and I say if ID type is int 64, in case, no problem, we want to convert it to int, ID dot int 64. Right? That gives us the integer. Else, I'm just going to return the regular int and int. Finish. Right? Let's go back to our users. Next, I want us to, let's collapse this, collapse this. Let's work on password hashing. So I'm going to say func. This time around, I want to add this method directly on the user type called compare password. So U for user, right? And have the user type here. I say compare password. So we're going to have a password each time, and we want to compare new password with the existing password if it is correct or not. So I'll say plain password. We can return a boolean and an error, right? This is going to be a string, of course. What else do we need to do? Sure, we need to go into bcrypt and say bcrypt compare password. What I have, say byte. So this is the existing password versus the new password they are bringing. What could go wrong? Let's check. Error, if not nay. If not nay, we switch. I want to switch because case errors is if we have password mismatch error, it's not really an error, but it's just a password didn't match, right? So in that case, I want to do something else. I want to say return false, but nay. Error should be nay in this regard. Else, we're going to return false and also return the error. This time we know that, hey, this password didn't match, so it's false. And what else? After that, we just return true and return nay. Everything looks good. Fantastic. What else we have to do? I think for users, that is it. We need to add another method called authenticate. This authenticate method is going to be on the user's model that we use to log the user in. So authenticate. What do we need? Email and password. And then let's return the authenticated user and a possible error. What else? Let's write it. Let's grab the user using m.find by email. We already have that method. So if error is not me, we want to return me and error. Great. Now, at this point, we should have the user, right? What I want to do is if user is not activated, I want to return me user. I'll say user not active. And we need to go add this up there as well in models. Create a new error type. Account, your account is inactive. Let's go back to users.go around line 103 and start typing. So let's say match error user.compare password. You see why we have that compare password. The password they are bringing in this one. Of course, we need to check for error. If error is not nay, we want to, several things could go wrong here. The error might be a password mismatch or the other errors. So what we want to do here, I think in this case, because we are dealing with authentication, let me add something else that I'll say error invalid login, something like that. Errors invalid login. Right, so I'm just going to invalid login. I think that looks good to me. So instead of this, I just return that. Then if we didn't match, great. Oh, I see. Because we're returning booleans, okay, it's great. So no problem. Let's return the error here. And here is where we actually return this nil and invalid login. Fantastic. Password didn't match. After that, we can go ahead and return the user and name. Everything should be fine, hopefully. So we are done with users. I think at this point, let's go ahead and work with posts. Post is a little bit complicated due to the SQL that we need to render this. I'm not going to type all the SQL, so I'll copy the SQL over and then I will explain it. Right, so let's start by creating the type. Post type is struct, of course. ID int. We need the title string. We need the URL string. Created at time.time. What else? User ID int. Username string. What else? Comment count int. Total records int. Let me show you why we have some sort of, maybe you think some of these fields are irrelevant or redundant. Let me show you why I'm doing this. If you come to the rendering, this is the title. The URL is, when you click on it, you see the URL. This is the vote count. This is the comment count. This is the username. This is the created at, and this is this host. It's a computed value. So we are going to need to create a method that takes care of that. So that's why we have some of these fields. Great. What else? Let's add the tags. So Opera can interact with it very well. Comma, omit empty. So for the omit empty, we want to have we're going to have for total records. They are all computed values. Username is also computed values. And user ID is not a computed value. Votes. Yes, that is missing. Vote is missing. So I'm just going to copy over this one and say votes. I think that is it for now. Right? Create the type posts model struct db.session. Let's go register it with the models. So posts and post model. Here we should be initializing it to post model db. That makes it available in our routes. Let's go back to this place. Let me bring over the SQL, some of the error types that we have. All right, so I bring this to over. This I want to let me just say var. Okay. Let's look at what we have here. We need to import errors. Okay, we have errors imported. So the SQL is, we have an inner SQL that does the fetching, this one, which like basically fetch, count, join the data, and we have the outer one that we are joining the user. But the most important thing here that I want you to take away is this. because I want to reuse this query. I want to use this query when I'm fetching all the records. This is here. And I also want to use it when I'm fetching a single record. This is not going at the moment. But when I'm fetching a single record, I want to use it as well. So we need to use this query twice. And from what you can see, that it's a complicated query that I definitely don't want to write twice. So what I'm going to do is to have some sort of tags here. This $sign and where $sign. This is not SQL. This is me putting these placeholders so I can go and replace them and use it as my template, right? So we're just going to leave it right there. While we are still here, in order for us to work with post, I want to create another type called filtering that would control some of these fields, like sort by, page size, the search, what else? I think, yes, and the pagination. So let's go work on that quickly. So I'll say models, filters. So now that we have filters, I'm going to type filter struct page int. We also need page size int. We also need order by int. We also need the query. I'm sure you just from their names you could tell their functions, right? This control where the page size is that drop down. The order by is where we have order by popularity or latest. Query is what controls the search. We're going to have more stuff here. Let's have metadata. Metadata is struct. Current page. Metadata controls the pagination. So int page size int first page int. We're going to have for next page int prev page int last page int total records int. That is very straightforward. What I want to do quickly is to validate some of the filtering. So when they set the filter, I want to do small validation. Say validate error. So if the page is less than equal to 0 or f.page is greater than, if it's too much, this upper bound is not necessary, but I still want to do it anyway. Name, let's say invalid page range, right? 1 to 10M, 10 million or something like that, right? That is one. I also want to validate the page size. So I'm just going to copy the same thing. Say page size. Similar idea. I don't want people to overset the page size. If it's greater than 100, I'm going to say invalid page size 1 to 100. 1 to 100 max. Something like that. So you want to apply some controls to your code. You don't want to give people unlimited opportunity, right? You want to apply some constraint. Very important. After that, this is where we do the template aspect. The template aspect is like the replacement that we want to do. This is where we actually do it. So let's do it. So I'll say func F for filter, and I will say add ordering. The query string is also going to return a string. Right, so what we need to do, I'm going to switch. I'm going to say f.order by let me see what we have. Filter order by yes. Switch f dot Why do we have this that's not working? Type, yes. Okay, let me do f dot order by is equal to, if it's equal to popular, I want to do something. I want to say return strings dot replace what? I want to replace order by with order by votes descend, and I'll say p dot created at descend. I want to do it just once. And the string that we are replacing is this q. That's everything. Right? Else, as you can see, you definitely can add multiple this thing there. So order by is supposed to be string, and I mistakenly made it an int, so that's why it's showing the error. So I'm just going to come here and do like a default one, order by, I think we should just order by, take this one out, order by this p created at descent. Great. So that is it for order by. What else? We should order by, let's do for filter, let's do for where, add where, q string as well. What we want to do, query is also a string, right? Yes. So if len f.query, that means if they type something in the query, we want to do something. I'm going to just copy this long string replacement. Of course, we want to do the where, and I want to do this. I'll say where lower, so we can convert to lowercase, p.title. We're only searching on the title, like we put this ampersand 1. This is for Postgres, so it will work for Postgres. Else, we're just going to replace the where with nothing, right? No, nothing. If they've not searched for anything, we don't want the where clause as part of the query. That ends query. What else? We want to add for limit and offset. So I can say add limit offset. Very similar. So we are going to check if they are searching for something already. We want to say limit. The reason why we are checking for this, because if we have 1 here, we should do 2, 3. So we're going to say limit up 2 and offset 3. Else, we are going to do limit still, but it will be 1 and 2. 1 and 2. What else do we need? Let's apply all this template called, let me copy the signature. I say apply templates. What I need is to just say return f.add limit offset, f.add where, and f.add ordering, and pass the queue. That adds all these templates that we've created here. And what else? Func f filter, let's do limit, and int return f.page size. Okay, what else? We need the offset. Offset is Offset, let's just make it like this. F.page minus 1 times F.page size. That gives us the offset. Lastly, we just have a general function here that helps us calculate the pagination. So metadata. What do we need? We need the total records. We need the total record. We need the page. We need the page size. All of them int. And we return metadata here. Easy stuff. Right? What we need, if total records is 0, we want to just return empty meta, right? There's nothing we need to do at this point. But if we have it, let's declare meta, and let's start populating stuff. Current page will be page. Page size will be page size. First page is always going to be 1. Last page is where we need to do some math. Convert everything to string. Math.c float, convert to float 64 total records divided by float 64 page size. Right? What else do we need to add here? Total record, of course. Total record is being passed in. After that, I want to set some meta.next page is going to be meta.current page plus 1. And meta.previous page is going to be meta.current page minus 1. One last check. If current page is less than equal to the first page, we want to meta.previous page equal to 0. There's no need to go 0 when you are the first page, right? Like there's no previous from first. After that, we just return meta. And that is it, right? Time to go and complete the post model. Now that we have our query templates and we have the filter that we want to apply to them, it is time for us to work on the models. So let's start by adding a similar method, just what we have here. So I'm just going to copy it over this one and change this and make it post. That gives us the post table. And let's work on the get. The get is very simple. Get by ID. So I'm going to say ID int. What are we returning? We are going to return a post and an error. Great. Let's start with the post we are returning. I'm going to come here. I always like to return the expected value. It's a way of like starting with the end goal in mind, right? I can move this up a little bit to close it out. All right. First thing I want to do is strings. I want to do some replacement here. Replace. Query template. I want to the where for this one. I want to replace the where with where p.id is equal to 1. Right? This is straightforward, nothing special. We did most of the filtering that we did here. For instance, you may be wondering, like, we have a add where here. We are going to use this for the get all method. So this one is a very simple one that we can just use this simple approach here. I'm going to do another replacement. Replace. This time around, we're replacing the queue, and I'm replacing no ordering. like order by. We don't need any order by. And I'm going to replace it with an empty string and nothing else. Whereas we need to also remove the limit. We don't want limit inside there. And I think that's everything that we need. After that, we just say row error m.db.sql. It's a function. What we need to query and pass the query and the ID. We just check for error now. Error not nil. We want to return nil and the error. Great. Whereas we have the row, we need an iterator. So iterator would be it m.db.sql.new iterator. How do you pronounce it? Iterator. Iterator, yeah? Okay. Sounds good anyhow. Error iter.what 1. And we just pass it the post as reference. We just check for error one more time. And we can return the post. So this is everything we need to do for get. Let's copy it for getter, but it's a little bit different. Just copy it for now and say get all. We need a filter here, which I'm going to name F. We need a slice of post and error. We also need the metadata to be as part of what we are returning. So we need the post. Let's create some variables here. This is the post we are returning. Rows will be sql.rows. In case you guys are hearing my son screaming, he refused to go to bed. I still have to record this video anyway. Meta. Alright. So this is what we have. And let's start working on the queries. I'm going to take this one out and say Q is f.apply. Apply templates, query template, right? So that applies the template. Now let's work on some things here. If they search for something, so if f.query greater than 0, if they search for something, the rows error will be m.db.sql.query. Of course, the query itself, and ampersand. I want to concatenate this here. Strings.to-lower f.query and ampersand. I think that does it. Then what else? f.limit, f.offset. Else. This is, so if you go to the filter, just quickly, this will be for 1 and then 2, 3. But if they don't search, like if this query is 0 or something, right, then we know that just only limit and offset we need to add. So just going to bring the same thing here and remove this path. They didn't search for anything, so we only need limit and offset. That is it for that. Next is need to check for error. If we have an error, we want to return meta as well. That close it out, because remember we have error going on here. Next, we need the same thing, but this time around rows. What else? We need all, to use all and pass it post. We are almost there, but I want to search for a few things. We also search for error. What else? Here I would have said, let's just return it, but something needs to happen. Because let's look at the query quickly. We are also retrieving this count over that we are doing. It's a window function that is giving us the total records as part of each role has total records, but we actually don't need it for each role, but it's just a technique to avoid us running these queries twice. So basically I need to grab it from one of the posts. So I want to check if len post greater than 0, or if it's equal to 0, let's return similar thing here. Of course, we're going to say ni if len. This is not an error, but just that no, the post is ni. And maybe we can even say errors.new, no record or something like that, right? At this point, we are good. We can just say first, post and slice it to get the first one. So here we can easily calculate our metadata by saying calculate meta, then we return this, bring all the posts here. Let's do it here. First.total records, f.page size. That gives us all of that. Let me remove this. This is everything, forget all. What else we need? We need one for the votes. So let me copy this one. And I'm going to say vote. But we need how to vote is the post ID, user ID. What are we returning? Nothing, just an error. Okay, and how to vote. Let's grab the collection m.db.collection. The name of the table is votes. Instead of us creating a vote model, we're just adding it to the post here. It's okay. For a small project like this, it's actually perfectly okay. I don't want the return value, so I'm going to say error is colon.insert. And this is an opportunity to see another style of inserting records. So I'm going to use a map. String and an int for this. So for post ID, user ID. Actually, the field is user_ID, not user ID that way. Okay, I think that is it. What else do we have? I think that works. Do I have any error or something? Not that I know of. I can see. Next is to check for the error. We check for the error, but error can be that duplicate thing. So let's say if error has duplicate error, let's say votes underscore p key, which is the primary key, return error duplicate votes. Let's make sure we have do we have it here? Okay, we don't have it, so I just errors.me. You already voted. It's saying that we have it. Oh yeah, we do have it actually. Okay, fantastic. All right, so that solves that duplicate problems. After that, we don't have to do anything. We just return name, and that is the vote. Okay, that concludes posts and users. So time for us, we have enough data now to go and do authentication, to go and do everything that we need. Before we go for authentication, let me go to the browser quickly. We have the rendering engine. We have Chai for our routing. What else? We have this for our database. We need Carbon for date manipulation. So let me bring in Carbon quickly. This will help us like display some time ago and all that. So let's bring it in. Just like we added a method on the post itself, I want to add another, we added a method on user here, like this one. I want to add one to post. I think one or two actually. So I'm going to say post. Let's name it P here. And I'm going to say date human should be a string. We're just going to return carbon dot time to carbon is going to be post dot created at. That gives us that, and div for humans. I think that's what it is. Yeah, that gives us like 10 minutes ago and all that. Also, I want like the URL of the post, the host name. So I'll say host, right? And how to do that is really simple. I will say this URL for URL will be url.parse p.url. If we have an error, I'm just going to return an empty string. Else we return .host. That gives us the host name of the URL. You have a lot of things like the fragment and everything is part of it, right? Next step is to just go ahead and start working on mostly, I'm going to bring the templates over, then I'll explain what we have. So let's bring the view. We won't work inside the view at all. So we have some views here. I'm just going to bring in over the view and let me explain override all. Let me explain what we have. So we have layout, we have partials. In layout, we have two. A base layout, which is just a rough HTML like Hacker News clone. Let me put this title by Abba Joseph. And we are including the part from partials. We are including header. We are checking if user is authenticated. Don't forget, if you go to your render, remember this template data, everything we have here, we are sending it to we are sending it out. So this is where we are going to set everything. I'll come and set it soon. Then let's go back there quickly. We're checking if they authenticated, the user, the auth user and everything. They are all coming back and all that. So this is the template. We have one for form, quite short. So we have page content and everything. Now let's go and work on the routes. So to render these templates. The good thing is I have all this in the repository. You can just copy it and use it, right? For instance, we've not installed the CSRF token. So this is going to be empty for now, but it's okay. I want you to see the behavior. So we are going to keep it for last. So let's go to handlers and start working on this home handler. Let's start by passing the form r.passForm. Very, very important step. I say if error is not near, we want to do something. I'm going to log filter. Because of time, unfortunately, I'm going to be using log filter most of the time, but definitely you want to have like a helper method that renders another HTML for the errors. I don't have luxury of time. The video is almost 2 hours already, and I really want us to be fast. Let's create a filter. models.filter. This time I'm going to need a query to set query. I'm going to need to set the page itself. I'm going to need to set the page size, order by, for now. Just leave everything for like this. So I want to get two helper methods. We have a helpers? No, we don't have any helper file. So helpers. Let me bring in some code from the helper, then I will explain what we have in there. They are nothing special. They are just, so this read int, we just read integer from the URL, right? Another one, we read int default. We try to read an integer. If it's less than or equal to 0, we return default value. This one, we render server error, client error by setting status. Nothing too dramatic here. They are basic methods. So let's go here. You can, with that in place, if you want, you can replace this with a.server_error and pass in the error. So time to now work on the filter now, right? We want the r.url, which is coming from the request query, because we want to get. Very simple stuff. The page, we want to do a.read in default. We want to read from here, and page, but the default value is going to be 1. I also want to do similar thing here for the page size. The default page size is going to be 5. And I'm going to name it page_size. And the order by is similar to this one. So we just do order by, and that is it. Next, let's fetch the post. Post, we're returning 3, meta and error. That will be a.models.post.getAll, and pass in our filter. And this is the fun of having abstractions. Like when you have things, look at, we only need to call this getAll, passing filter, and we have it, right? So we are going to check for error again. And after that, we can go ahead and send out some things here. Let me copy over what I want to do, because I think it's just too long for me to type, and it will waste your time. So let me bring it over and let me show it to you. So query URL, we are doing page size and putting the page size, the order by, and all that. So we do for next and previous. Now we make a get var of post. This get variable is basically a map that we are sending to the view, and this is our index. Now I'm going to take this one out for now. We don't need it yet, but let me just comment it out. We're still going to add the forms, and this is what we need. So I'm going to go ahead, make run, and let's see if everything that we've done so far is working. I don't know why we have receiver names are different. Where do I have them different? Yeah, I want our receiver name to be here, of course. Let's go to, where is our site? I want to move it closer to this. All right. We should be accessing the site from here. Okay, not found. Yes, because no routes. Let's go to routes. And here, register routes. Mux get this a home. Run our server again. Go here. Refresh. Server error. Let's see why. As total. Interesting. Syntax. PQ syntax error at limit. Okay. It looks like we have an error with our models. Let's look at the limit offset where limit to offset. Okay. Let's go to our query in this place and see post what we have. Limit and let's say syntax near limit. We have two cases, right? One is that means let's look at get all. And I see the 3. So this is the one that is failing. So let's go to apply, add limit offset, add where, add limit offset. Oh, yes, limit. All right. That was it. In case you see the same error, you just know how we fix it. And okay, we still have another one. But this time around, it says no records. So this error, no record, is coming from here. Let's go back to our models and see. We have choices here. This is what is currently failing, this one. If it's 0, we probably can return nil here. Or we need to go and handle that error no records. But if we return, let's run it and see if we can see a blank page or something. Yes, so this is better. What I'm going to do now is to try and insert some data, some record into the database. So I'm going to go back to the home. Where is our home? Handlers, home. So what I'm going to do quickly is a.models.post.ins.post. What we have, we do not have an insert method yet. Interesting. So let's go handle that. Where is the insert for user? So this is the one for user. This doesn't really match. So let's go and write it quickly. I'm going to need the signature. So I just come down here and I say insert the title of the post, the URL. All that is going to be string and user ID is going to be int. And what do I want to return? I want to return a post and that. So this is the post that we want to insert. Created at time.now, title, URL. Sometimes the IDs are too helpful. User ID. This user ID, what do we have in the post table? I want to quickly check it. Posts is user underscore ID. And when we go here, what do we call it? User underscore ID. So that should work. What else? I think that's about it. So we need a collection, m.db.collection, m.table, response, error is collection.insert, insert the post. If error is not nil, we want to return error. So we can have that. It's possible to get that unique error situation here. So you want to check for that. After this, I want to say post.id will be now convert this res.id and I'll just return the post and name. So this should give us a way to create some posts. I won't handle any of the errors, any of the return types. So I'm just going to say models.post.insert. We don't have any user in the database too. Wow, interesting. So let's go create a user. User error a.models.users.insert user. So let me just say u. So let's say u models.user email aj@me or sample.com password name aj or Abba Joseph. All right, I think that's about it. So if error not me log fatal, what we have, why do we have assignment counts? Let me look at the insert only returns an error, so we don't need this one anymore. Okay, I think that solves the problem. So post, we can say title is sample title 1, URL will be localhost, I don't need the S, and then u.id. Okay, this should give us some random users. 2, 3, 4. Why? What am I doing? I could have put it in a loop, but it's okay, and I just have to do this. All right, everything looks great. Let's restart the server and run it. Let's see what's going on. Can't use URL host as seed name in struct modes.type. Okay, so what is going on here is this, everything here was successful. So I'm going to delete what we have here at the moment and go back to this. So if you go to our template, this one error is URL host. Is posts coming from partial post. This. So this is the problem. I'm going to now run it again. Refresh, and we have our content. No comments. Everything looks good. 50 seconds ago, all of them at the same time. So what needs to happen next is we need to work on the comments page. So we need to work on the, when you click on this, we need to bind to this URL. But this, everything looks okay as it is now. So let's go and do that right away. For the comment page, let's open our routes and say mux.get comment / post ID. This is how you use it. So this is some parameters that needs to be replaced. So I'm going to say a.comment handler. We are going to go and create it right now here. So I can close this one now. Func. I'll leave this one here and come back here like this. Copy this one in here. Bring in the parameters. And boom, we are good. It's a very simple method. I'm going to say vars. Let's make some jet map. Var map. This is what we are sending to our template. Post ID is going to come from striconf. We are going to need to read one from chai.url param, passing the request, and the name of the parameter is post ID. That is what we have hooked up in the routes here It has to match this. Very important. After that, we just check for error. If error is not me, I want to return here, but at the same time, I want to say client error. What else? What does it take? It takes just a writer, HTTP status bad request, something like that. It's okay. Next is the post and error again. a.models.post.get, and of course we have the post ID right up there. I'm going to copy and bring this over, but this time around I'm going to say server error, so I can pass it the error message for us to see. Since we have access to log, you also want to log this, right? You have access to the logger. After that, we can say vars.set post and pass the post that we are setting. What else? We need the comments as well, but since there is no comment, I am not sure if we'll be able to render it. So let's just continue and say error a.render, and we just pass the comments, so we want to render and pass in the vars, and then check for error again, and everything should be good. We need to remove this one, and everything should be okay. But we need the comment here. Let's see the error message we are going to get. It's going to say there is no comment or something like that. So this is good. Click on it, and we sort of have an error message saying internal server error, right? Let's see if error, internal server error. Let's look at what we have. Get runtime, can't use URL. Okay, it looks like we are having this URL host situation almost everywhere since I renamed that method in the template, and I go refresh again. That won't take away the error, just as it's going to change to a different error because we still need comment. Look at what it's saying now, that identifier comments not available in current. Look at the context. So we need comments, and if we try to mock it, it's not going to work. Let's see what comments look like, right? Look at range comments. Needs to be a slice of comments. So I think there's a way, if we want, we can just make like dummy comment and all that, but let's go and create the comment model right away, right? So I'll go here and say comment. Very simple model. So let's create a type struct. I need the ID. It's an int. I need the creator that. It's time.time. I need the body. It's a string. We need the post ID. It's an int. And we need the user ID. It's an int. I'm going to have this user here. The reason why we're having it is because we want like the name of the person as part of it. So we are going to inline it. Let's bring in the tags. I'm sure you know the drill by now. So we're going to do omit empty. But something interesting, because we are joining this, I want to go into rename this comment underscore ID. Created that is going to be created that, but we also want to do this. What else? Body, we leave body the way it is. We leave this one, we leave this one. Then here, we are going to say inline. That means it's going to use it from the user model. Let's work on it now. Very simple idea. I'm going to say m comment model, which I don't have yet. So let me create it here quickly. Comments model is of type struct. We depend on DB session, right? So we bring this one here and say get for post ID int. What are we getting? We're getting a slice of comment, and if you want, you can call it an array of comment as well. It's just that this is a slice because the size is not specified according to Go. And we're going to have this. This is what we are returning. I can just go ahead and return it. You know my flow by now. I like to start with the end goal. Here we are going to do some join. So stick with me. Q, we're going to say m.db, or hit grab SQL and say select. This is, I'm going to alias the comment table as C, so I'm saying ID as comment ID. That's why I renamed it here. Right? That is one. I'm also going to say c.created at, right? I want to rename this because I say created at in user, so let me put a C here as well. As created at, as this. Okay, you can just leave it like this. Okay, those two are out of the way. After that, select everything else. Right? Then, what else do I want to do? From comments as C. I told you that I'm going to alias it. What else? Join. Join users as U on C.user. This is a comment user ID equal to user.id. Simple join. There's nothing complex here. I need a where let's bring that condition then, where c.post ID, which is a comment post ID, is equal to post ID that we are bringing in. I want to order it by created at the send. That is the query. Error is going to be equal to query.all and bind it to this comment. That means it's going to map it to it. If everything goes fine or not, we want to return a nil. If we have an error, we want to return nil and the error. Else, we just bring this one and we are fine at that level. While we are still here, let's create an insert method. The body of the comment, the post ID, and the user ID. What we want to return? Nothing. Right? So I'm going to say error is m.db. Collection to grab the table. We say comments. We didn't create a table method for it. Okay, no problems. Insert the same thing we did, but this time around, because we have integer here, we have string here. You know the drill. We have to go with an interface, and then we do like this. So body will be body. user underscore ID is user ID, post underscore ID, post ID. Okay, that looks good to me. Let me copy over the error check, because we just say return error, else I'm just going to return name. If you want, you can like return the ID of the newly created comment, but I don't need that for anything. For this comment, I'm going to still do similar thing that I did for the date human. So I'm going to say date human string return carbon time to carbon. So c.created that and then div human. That's it for the comment. Let's go register it in model. So I say comments model, and we come down here and we say comments. I'm sure you know the pattern by now that when we have a model, we come and register it our models, and that is now available in our handlers, right? All right. With that, we can go to our handler now, and let's work on the comment now. So what I'm going to do after we've let's comment handler, after we've grabbed the post, I also want to grab all the comments. So it's going to be a.models.comments.get for post, and of course we have the post ID already, and then we just pass it. We do error check. If that is good, we just do var.set comment. I hope that solves the problem. Let's run our code quickly now, and let's see. Hope the code is running. Refresh. We have an error again. Let's see what's going on this time around. It's saying C, column C.created does not exist. Okay, that is fair. Let me see where created at. All right. I'll run it again. Let's refresh. Great. We have our comments page. Of course, there's no comment at the moment, which we'll do soon, but let's see. Go to comments and we see for post title 3, for title 1, we see everything's work. Right. Next is to, and let me show you something. If I go here and I type title, let's say title 3, it works. Why? So let me show you what's going on. When you go to the index, let's go to the header. You have, this is the header layout, sorry. So I'm in the header section of the HTML inside layout, base.html, which is inside layout. If you look at the form, look at the form here. We are just submitting to the current page, which is the home page. I can look for action. It's not there, but we just put an action. All right. So we are sending it to the home page with this queue, and I say, what else? When you just tap on the submit, you just submit the form. And why it's working is because when you go to your handler, we already set it up to work that way, that you look in the query string for these variables. So that is why. What else we have to do? We need to be able to log in and log out. So let's go render all those things. And we don't have these fields here. Let me show you what's going on. In order for users to post content, we need them to be logged in. So what I want to do first is to come to main and create just some two constant quickly. They are, let's say, const, and I'm going to say session key user ID and set it to user ID. This will be in my session. I don't want to continue typing the string, so session key user name is going to be user name, right? A very simple idea so far. Already we have the session created here, but let's go to our render. This is our default method and do something with it right here. So here, the first thing I want to do is to say if the session is not name, remember it's a pointer. So if it's not name, I want to do some things. I want to set some data. I would say if we have user ID in session, so session dot exists. Let me grab context from request. That's exactly why we are bringing in the request here. Let's grab the context and say session user key. If that exists in session, I want to assume that the user is authenticated. So template data dot is authenticated will be now true, and template data dot user auth user, we can grab it from session dot get string. Let's also use context from request, and I'm going to say session key username. This can give us the data of the logged in user. While the session is not new, we can also receive flash messages. So I'll say flash is equal to something very similar, but just the key will be flash. We really need it once, so I don't need to set any key for it. After that, I think that is good for us. Let's restart the server quickly and see if it has any effect on the application. So far, so good. What I'm not saying now is let's go to the base and see form. We need form in order for these things to happen, in order to see this. So if you go to our home handler, where is our home? We currently do not have a form. So let me go to make the forms touch forms form.go. The reason why we need a form is because we want to be able to control package forms. We want to be able to control the forms, right? So let me bring over the form data because, like I said, it's not like a huge part of the application and I wouldn't want to waste time typing everything. So I'm going to explain to you. This regex, you can get it online. You don't need to think about it. We use it to check for email address. We are storing errors here that belongs to validation errors, just a map, right? So we can add errors. We can grab the first error that relates to the field. So for instance, with, let's say, username can contain multiple errors like the length, maybe you have some database validation, you can grab the first one related to that. This is a form itself. Form is nothing but URL.values, and of course we have our own errors that we are using with it. And this is how to create a new form. You just make the errors and initialize the URL data with the new one that we are sending in. We are validating email address. We just have some simple validations here, and you can grab this on the repository without thinking about it. So let's go to our home handler now and comment out this part of the code, and we can go ahead and run the program now for us to see the part of the application that is currently not showing up. So we refresh and now we have it, right? So you are able to, sort by latest and do all that. Fantastic. We are almost done here actually. But what we need to do now is to render the login and do registration and all that, and people should be able to submit post. At the moment, there is submit button is not showing because the user is currently not logged in. So let's work on user authentication. Let's look at the login form, very basic form. You have the email, the password, and this CSRF token, which we're going to talk about soon. We're going to send it to, where is it? We're going to send it to /login. So we go to the route, and I'm going to have register a login handler here. And I say /login. We go to the handlers quickly. It's time for us to also collapse this. And I'm going to do this func and mind this. So we bring in the signature. We also bring in the parameters. Makes it a valid handler. So we just a.render. This one is very simple. We're going to render this. We're not passing any data. If error is not near, we probably can copy this error from here, error message from there, and put it here. Okay, that's about it. It's time to run it and go check out our login. Great, we can render the login form now. How about the sign up form? So let's go and render that as well. In routes, mux.get sign up, sign up handler. And I'm going to go back here, just copy this, paste it, rename, and change this to sign up. We are going to need to pass a form. So vars make jet varmap. And then I'm going to say var set form of forms.new ur.post form. This one is more. All right. I think this is okay for now. The reason why we are passing a form is because we are going to use it for the, when we are processing the form, we need to refill the form. Let's look at what's going on. Internal server error. Identifier form not available in current context. Yes, we didn't pass it. We only created the variables, but we never pass it down. That was okay. Good error reporting. So we now have our create account and our login working very well. Now, when you feel, let's say we have like an account called ag@sample.com and password, it's not going to work because there is no method for it. That is why we have 504. So let's go now to create a method for that. I'm going to go to our routes, very close to the login. I'll change this to post, and then I'll say login post handler. Go to our handlers, func, this. Just bring in the receiver, bring in the parameters, and of course we need to take out that one. Let's go to the routes and make sure that everything looks good from there. Fantastic. Okay, so what do we need to do? First, we need to pass the form, which is r.pass form. Something I have not mentioned is, so if you want to reduce the size of the amount of payload you read from the body, you can do this. For instance, say body equals to HTTP max bytes reader, and then you can reduce it. Let's say 1024 times 2 or something. This is important so that you don't, someone just send like 1 gig to an endpoint that shouldn't take anything more than like a few meg, right? Or a meg max. So sometimes you have to do this. Some frameworks actually allows you to configure this on like a global level, but it's okay. I just showed you that, and you can, okay, we handle the error now. Now that we have handled the error, it's time to create a form, and this is why we're using the form, because forms.new, I'm going to say r.postForm. I want to add some validation to this form. Form.email is an email field, and minimum length for the password. It should be, minimum length should be 3 for the password. Then we can check for validation that if form is not valid, what do we want to do, right? We want to make some vars variables here. Make get var map vars.set form. We are sending the form down. And what else do we want to send? I think we can vars.set errors. Or let's just send the error and see. Errors form.errors. Okay. What else? We want to render that login back. So the error is okay. Let's render the login form again. And if everything goes well with the validation, we want to try and log in the user. So before that, I want to try this validation. So I'm going to restart the server. I like this incremental way of working. Do something, test how it works. So I just clicked on it and I didn't really see any message. Right, so let's go back to see why errors, but also let's look at the and it's saying errors, right? So it's errors.this. So looks like we should be getting an error. I want to go back to the handler and say if form not valid, set errors form.errors. That looks like something that should work, but like as always, we made a mistake again. I didn't pass it. I made that mistake a lot. I didn't pass the variable. So we go again, we try, log in, and you see the value provided is not a valid email address. This password is too short. Minimum is 3 characters. Fantastic. Our validation is working. Okay. After that, we want to now say, hopefully this is the authenticated user, a.models.users.authenticate, and we just say form.get email and form.get password, right? If we have an error, what we want to do, this one, I'm not going to render the form. I'm going to send a flash. If error is not nil, I'm going to say a.session.put r.context. I want to set a flash, and I say login error. It will be, yeah, error.error. We are sending it as part of the flash. Then we are going to redirect. It's an opportunity for you to also see how redirection work in Go as well. Redirect, you passes the response writer, the request, and where you want to redirect to. This time we want to redirect back to login and HTTP status C order. This is what I'm going to use, and of course we want to return, so the code can stop right there. If everything works and we are authenticated, we pass this code and we come to this place, we just want to, before I do anything, I'm going to renew the session, renew token, r.context. So we can have a fresh session to put data into it. I'm going to say a.session.put context. And what are we putting? Remember, we have some of those keys there. The user ID is going to be the user ID. And I need the one for session username will be the name of the user. We have those two things in session. After that, we're going to redirect. But this time around, we are going to the home page and we are using the same code. That's the end of the login. And let's go and test it. Okay. So I'm going to, I know that we have a user aj@sample.com and password. Remember that user login. Account is inactive. Great, good message. Account is inactive. That is coming from our distance. So let's go into our database to set up some of the to fix that problem. What I'm going to do was my database name is HNews, right? So I'm going to go to View Tools window, the database, and I need to open a connection where is Postgres. Can I just start typing? Yep. Database name, this one. User is Postgres. Password is Postgres. Test connection. I'm connected, so I use that information to go into the database. And I have my public schema, all the tables, but I just want access to the console here. Let me show you guys some SQL from users. We're able to access all the users. It's coming over here. Look at it, right? User ID is 1. So I can say update user set activated equal to true, where ID is equal to 1. So we just update my account from source. It looks like it went. aj@sample.com, password, and then login. Fantastic. This name is too long. Wow. I can use by, where is that coming from? I can use clone. So the name's too long. Yeah. So we are now logged in. You see, I am still seeing this, your account is inactive. Let's see how we are using the flash message. Where's render? The flash message is supposed to pop string. That way it takes it from the session and we don't have to remember it. I run it again and that is gone. But we are still logged in because our data is currently stored in the database. The session data is stored in the database and we are logged in. Now it's time for us to log out. But for you to log out, we want to make sure that you are currently logged in. So for now, let's do something. Go to logout. There's no logout. So let's work on logout quickly. Logging out should be really easy. We don't have to do so much in order for users to log out. I'm just going to say a.logout handler. Right. At the moment, let me just close this thing up and also close this one up. Can close that up as well so we can see very well. Yep. So I just say func. This is a logout handler, right? We bring the receiver and I bring this. What do we want to do in the logout? There's nothing really special about logging out. We just want to delete the sessions. So I'm going to say a.session.remove r.context. We want to remove what? Session, this one. Both of them actually. I'm going to session username. I'll do that. I don't know why this one doesn't want to fold. What's going on here? Okay, when I save, the formatting sort of clear out everything. Okay, I have that now. What else? I want to do session destroy r.context. And I'm going to just renew token again, r.context. After that, I have everything. I want to do that redirect. I'm going to redirect back to the home page. So this should work. But what is going to happen is, even if you are not, let me bring this up. Even if you are not logged in, you can visit this logout page, which is, I don't want that to happen. You see, we've been logged out, but I don't want that to happen. So what I want to do, I want to add some middleware. So let me go func, application, auth required. And I say next, HTTP handle, HTTP. For this one, I'm going to use handler func and HTTP handler func because I want to say, okay, return func, right? I want to work on it here. User, the person that's in session or user ID is equal to a.session.getInt r.context, right? r.context session user key, right? This is what we're just going to look for in. So if user ID, if it's 0, which is a default that this return, that means we didn't find the user. I'm going to say HTTP redirect. Is there a way, where can we copy redirect code quickly without wasting time? Here, we are going to redirect to login. And I can return the code here. Else, we just set some header. Don't catch control to know that, hey, this varies, right? No store. And we next.serve, and we are good. So that is it for auth required. So what is going to happen now is, now if I go to logout, it will bring me to the home page because it's been executed, but I don't want it to execute if I am not logged in. So what is going to happen is, when I go to routes and I wrap it, auth required, and I just wrapped it, and then let's restart the application, run it again with this middleware. When I go to logout now, it takes me to login. That means we cannot go to logout without being logged in, which is fantastic. Logging in again, and now we can log out, and everything just works. Right, so we are able to log out, we can log in. How about sign up? So sign up, we need to create a sign up method. Let's do it. For the sign up method, I want to start by copying this one and change the method to post. because we want this endpoint to be a post. And we can go to handlers to create the method. Func, same style. Let's bring the application receiver, bring the parameters, and we are good. First thing I want to do is to limit the body size. I mentioned this briefly some minutes ago that you can use this to reduce the number of payload you want to read from the bodies. This is a relatively small application and I don't want to read anything more than this. And time to pass the form. When you're dealing with forms, you always want to call this pass form. If not, it's not going to work. We have some error checking going on here. We can just borrow that quickly. What next? We want to create some variables, which is basically the jet map, jet var map. Let's create a form, forms.new. You know that already, post form. Right? Then we set vars.set. We need to set our form and our form. We are doing this because remember in the get method, we also have this form set here because we need the form from the sign up template. Let me show you where we are using them. You see that we are refilling the input with the data. So we are calling form.get and the name of the fields to refill it. That is why. Let's go back to handlers. I want us to add some validation. So I'm going to say required. What is required? The name is required. Email is required. Password is required. And I want to do email as email. What else? I think this is enough for now. You can do like minimum, maximum requirement if you want to do that. If the form is not valid, that means validation failed. Let me return here so I don't forget the return statement. What I want to do at this point is to var.set errors is going to be form.errors. I know I need to change this to lowercase because that is the name of the variable that we're currently using in our database. Let me show you that one quickly as well. Where is it? Errors, right? Fantastic. Okay, so we are back here. What I want to do next is to render the form, which we have somewhere here, sign up handler. This is the thing that we want. So I'm going to copy it over and paste it there. That is it. I think this gives us like some code to test what we've done so far. So I'm going to restart the server, go to the home page, click on create account, and we have name is required, email is required, password is required. It means our validation is working. Fantastic. Let's go back and finish it up. So I'm going to collapse this now so that we can see. All right. Now our form is valid. What we need is to create a user account. Do we have a yep? So we can say a.models.user.insert. Where is the user we want to insert? I can say you. Let's pass a reference to some user that we are about to create. Models.user. The name of the user. Form.get. Name. The email. Form.get. Email. The password, of course. Form.get. Password. And this is different. Activated at, for now, I'm just going to set it to true. And I just, let's say, move to database slash some sort of config, right, to determine or add something, make it, maybe send an email when you receive the email, you activate the account or something like that. So if error is not needed, we are going to do server error, right? What next? I think that is about it for this one, but okay, maybe we should add an error message. So let me show you something that we actually have there that's really cool. So we can say form.failed, and I'm going to say login. Sorry, this is not login, sign up. That is going to be the name of the field, and I would say failed to create account, and I just add this error. Create. The good thing is, so we need to bring this down again, and we have error set here again. This is going to populate this error, so that is why we are setting it. We render the page again. We check for error. If everything goes fine, we return in this error block. If everything goes fine, we can just set a session to a.session.put our context. What we need here, the key is flash. Account created is okay. And we just HTTP redirect. We need the writer request. We are going to the home page this time around. Or we can even go to login and HTTP status see order. Alright, that is it. Let's go and test it. Let's stop the server. Let me start. I'm going to keep it running, and we open the web page to try again. So abba at sample.com, password, create account created. Even though our flash message is red, it doesn't mean, but this is what we put in the flash message. How about we try to log in? Abba at sample.com, password, login. Fantastic. It is working end to end. I love what we've done so far. And we can upvote. It's currently not working. So that is something we need to take care of in a minute, right? We need to be able to upvote. So let's go and work on that right away. To vote for a post, we are going to need to protect that URL. So let's bring this here and say vote. We need auth required, and the name of the endpoint is going to be vote handler. Let's go to the handlers, func, and I'm going to copy the signature. So I copy the receiver in here, and we have this here, right? This method is also relatively simple. a.readInt default. I'm going to say r Let's get it. It's going to be an ID field, and the default is going to be 0. So post error models.post.get. So we pass the ID, we check for error. If error is not nil, I want to do something. Instead of rendering, I wanted to render an internal server error before, but for this I'm just going to redirect and put something in the session. So session dot put r.context. I'm going to put a flash message, and I will say error, and I put the error.error. After that, I'm going to say HTTP redirect quickly. Where are we redirecting to? We'll go back to the home page, and I can say HTTP status C other, because we need to return to exit the code at that point. Now we have the post. At this point, we should have the post for real. What needs to happen is we need the user ID from the session, right? Which is going to be a.session.getInt. Let's bring in the context. The key is, remember the key is session key user ID. This should give us the user ID that is currently logged in. Next step is error is equal to, remember we have a method for vote, so a.models.post.vote. What do you need to vote? The post ID, post.id, and the user ID, which we have from the session. I want to do very similar thing here. If error, and then we just put it like that. What else? I think that is about it. So here we just put, I'm going to do same thing here, but this time around is, let's say voted successfully. We don't need this. Typo in Word, and we fix the typo. What else? We need to redirect as well to home page. Fantastic. Looks like that is everything that we need to vote. And I'm going to restart the server, go to our home page, make sure that we can vote. Great, voted successfully, and we have one. Now when I click on it, it doesn't work anymore because we have this duplicate key value violates unique constraint, which is that error message that I showed you. I'm not going to do anything about it. We can vote for a new one. We can vote for other ones, and that is great, working really well. How about we signing out and then try to vote? You see, we are redirected to login because of that middleware. That means our middleware works very well. Something else I want to try is, let me sign up with a different account and try to vote. Fantastic. So we see I can vote this one as well. Title 3, and when I go to popular, we should see them sorted by popularity. Love this project. I love this project. Now that we can do that, it's time to work on this submit. So users' ability to submit a news. To submit a news, we need to register the routes. I'm going to come here, and both of them requires, both the submit get request and the post request requires authentication. So I'm going to keep it that way. So submit, one is going to be post, and I will say submit handler. And this one, I'm just going to add post here. Copy the first one here, Okay. Let me go copy the second one. Things like this, I like to copy it because you want to avoid typos. And I bring the receiver and bring the parameters as well. Fantastic. So we have the two methods. We also have them registered. First thing I want to do is to register the submit form, which is really simple to do. I'm going to make var first, make get var map, because we need a form. I'm going to say var.set. We need to have a form there, form.new, and r. For the form, I'm thinking we should, we don't actually need the value from the form at this point. Doesn't make any difference, because we are not going to we don't need the value from the form on this get request, but we need to have this variable anyway, and it needs to be an instance of this. That is why we are using it. So I'm not calling pass form. That's what I'm trying to explain this to you, but it's going to work. All right, so we do that, and we need to render. Instead of typing all that code all over and again, I'm going to copy this thing here and bring it here, right here. So we need to say submit. That is the name of our template. It has to be lowercase. What else? If error is not nil, we want to return as well. I think that is it for that. It's very simple form with nothing. We are passing the variable. I want to make sure that we're not missing anything. That is it. Let's run it and go to submit. Look at it, submit news. We are accessing it because we're currently logged in, so I can do submit and we're here. Now let's work on the post endpoint. The post endpoint is very similar to where is the login sign up. It's very similar to one of this one. So I'm going to just copy this. Probably can copy this as well. Let's paste, and I want to first of all grab the user ID. I say user ID is coming from a.session.getInt r.context and session key user ID. So we have the user ID right there. I want to bring this here now. Okay, what next? We have the user ID. We have vars make get var map, so we can send something to the template. And now we have these two. I want to do some validations. So form.required. What is required? The title is required. The URL is required. Right? And I also want to do, since we are here, I can just continue tagging to it. URL feed has to be URL. What else? Max length for the title. Max length for the title should be 255. Right? I can bring it to a new line. Max length for the URL as well should be 255. This is just some hard limit I'm putting, and I can say let me start setting things for the template form. It's going to be form. Now time to do validation. If the form is not valid, that means we failed in validating this form. Of course, we want to render, so I'm going to copy this over, and I can say vars.set, we need to pass the error messages down, form.errors, and I bring in the rendering code there. And we make sure we are returning. I can bring my return statement out here, since that is where we are in this same block. That is fantastic. I think I want to test this now before. Okay, user ID declared and not in use. Okay, we can use it. And we have used it. All right, let's go here, submit, and you say title is required. Let's put something. Great, let's put some URL. URL is not a valid URL. Fantastic. This application is fantastic, so everything works. What I want to do next is just to create the post, which is really, really easy to do. I don't want the return value. I just want to do a models.post.insert. We have form.get the title, form.get the URL, and then user ID. Since we are using the user ID down here, we can remove that code that we put to pass it. We need to check for error. And when I check for the error, I want to re-render that in case. So I'm going to bring this whole code down here. But instead of if form is not valid, I'll say if error is not near. And then let's see what we can do there. If error is not near, I want to form.fail, and the field name will be, I just say form, and I say fail due to error.error. Okay, and of course we are setting the error again. We are rendering our page, and everything should work. After that, we can redirect, but we want to put something in the session as well to tell the user that, hey, everything went well. Post submitted success. Okay, what else? It's time to HTTP redirect with HTTP C status C orders. Time to reload. All right, and I want to go here now and put title. So instead of us doing all that, let's go look for some news. So I'll say mapping struct. It's a good one. Copy the URL and submit news. Great. Struct mapping. And we have it. We can upvote it as well. And it's working very, very well. I think that is everything. Let's search map. We have it. This is working. Popularity, page size, everything works. I hope I'm not missing anything. Yes, sure, we're missing something. How about posting of comment? Hello, this is a comment, right? We currently don't have a way to post comments, so let's go and fix that right away. To post comment, first we need to register a post handler. Where is the comment? The same thing, but this time around we need to register a post handler and comment post handler, right? I'm going to go very close to this one and create it, right? Bring the receiver and bring this one. Parameters. We can close this one now to give us some space. Very similar idea actually. So I'm going to copy everything from here quickly. We are going to need that. We are going to need the post ID and everything. I need, all right, I think we can use the one from vote since post user ID, all that is going to be there. Let's paste it here and see. First, we've done the body. No, let's do the body quickly. r.body equal to http max body reader. r.body 1024 times 2, just like that. Now, what do we need? We are submitting a post, so it's not going to. This is not going to work, and I need to change it a little bit. So post ID. Since it's not going to work, of course, we need a user ID from session, so I'm going to keep that one. But let's do this on post ID. Error is conf dot at y. I don't know why this is named this, honestly. It's very difficult to pronounce. We want to do that from chai.url param. URL param. And we have it from post ID. Right? If we have an error, at this point I want to do server error. Why? Okay, and then pass the error. Return. Okay, now we have the post ID. We also have the user ID. We need the form. Forms.new quickly. r.postForm. That gives us the form. Let's add some validation here. Minimum length for a comment should be, let's say 10. And max length for a comment, I don't want people to just put 255. Right? If you have a lot of things to say, please look for a different website. Okay, if it is not valid, if this validation fails, we want to do a.session.put r.context. I'm just going to redirect. I won't, and I will say error. Your comment is not valid. And min 10, max 255, something like that. What else? HTTP redirect. I'm going to go back to comment slash. Oops, we can't just concatenate things here, so we need to use printf. Slash ID, and I'll just put post ID. HTTP to C order. Okay, that works. Just return it. If everything goes well, we just create a comment now. a.models.comments .insert get what we have it in comment. We have the post ID and we have the user ID. We also need to check for error. Again, this time around, we are just going to say error, where error is going to be error. I think that is about it. If everything goes well, we are going to redirect to that same page and say Maybe we comment created or something. It's no longer an error. The thing about this flash is I'm just being lazy by using the same flash for error and info. You probably want to have like info flash and add the different CSS and all that. So, and some of these things can be moved to like helper functions to help you do it in just one line. Like I just have a function here called flash and give it a URL and the message, and can just work, right? So I think that is about it for comments. So let's bring down the page, run it again, go to comment. Thanks for watching this tutorial. Comment. Your comment is not valid. Okay. Let's see why. I'm just going to copy something random and put. Oh, let's see why it's not working. You see the danger that we're not printing our validation message. Where is it? Minimum length, comment, max length. And I can know by saying infolog.print f. Let me put this form.errors. It can even be error log since it's an error. Let's run it. That should give us some clues. So I'm going to copy the same error message as a comment. That didn't work. So let's go check out what we have. Error is telling us where it's coming from. This comment is too short. Minimum is 10 characters. Something is definitely wrong. Let's look at this mean. If it's less than D, we have it. It looks like it should work. Run count in strings. I'm trying to see why. Minimum if run count in string. Okay, another thing we can do is to say log.print. Let's put something like that there and see what that gives us. I bring the same thing here, paste. Let's look at the output. It's saying 0. That means this value is not, there's no value, nothing in it. Let's look at our handler. Are we calling pass form anywhere? You see, we are not. So we are not. Error r.pass form. It's very important. So we think we have error declared somewhere already. That was the problem. You see why it's very important to call pass form. Of course, I can now say thank you for watching. Fantastic. How about Joseph? Just now. One comment, you can do all that. So we have comments, we have everything. One last thing I want to do is to add this. Let me show you. Is to go to render, and we need to add this CSRF token, cross-site request forgery token. There is a library called Golang no solve. which is a very simple library that is used for that purpose. So I'm going to go now and bring it in. Where is the install instruction? There is no instruction here, so we can just copy this. Go get and paste it. Let's install it. Great, it's installed. Where we want to use it is, first we need to add a middleware for it. First, so I go to, very similar to this, let me copy this over. And I say, let's call it CSRF token required. Something like that, more explicit. And all I want to do here is to say handler is no soft. No, that is not what I want to do. No soft.new, and I pass it next. Then I return handler. And there's a reason why I didn't go use this one directly. I could have just, used the middleware directly, but I want to show you something here. Let's say you are working on an API project that you don't need this CSRF token to happen, or you are handling it in a different way. You can exclude. You can say handler.exempt, right? You can do exempt glob, exempt path. You can have different things like that. So you say exempt glob. You can now say, let's say API/everything, anything like API that has like /API/something should be exempted. That means this is not going to fire for them, right? Very important. Next is to try and register it in our route. So let's go and register it. Where is our routes? Routes. We want to register the middleware somewhere here. I'm going to just come up here and say mux.use. Since we have it a.c. Yeah. All right. What else? We can test it. We run it again and go here. I want to try and submit something. And now you see bad request. Bad request, why? The middleware is working, but let me show you what is going on. In our code, we actually have a way to insert the code, but the code is currently not there. So we need a way to bring in the code. So let me come here and show you what is going on. By default, I have already put this code here to insert the token, but we're currently not inserting the token. So I want to show you why. If you go to our render, this is where we should be doing it. So our render now, we need to say td.csrf token is equal to no soft dot, I think is new, okay, no soft dot token. So we just pass a request, right? Let's now drop the server, restart it, and I go to the browser now. Let's reload. I want to view the source again and show you now we have the token generated for us. That's all we need to do. I want to test the site one more time. This time around, I'm just going to copy that link. And I also copy the title, which is no soft. I just say copy this like this and paste, submit, and it works great. It's going to work for all our endpoints already, like sign up, login, and everything. If you go to login, we already have it here, right? Great, it still works. So this is our project. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you've watched the whole course, please let me know in the comment. I will be very happy. This took me a lot of time to record, and I really want to make sure that people are watching it, people are gaining some values from it. So please, if you happen to watch this course completely, please do let me know. If you're having any problems, please reach out to me in the comment or via email. I'm available to support you. And for those that complete the course, please, I don't mind 15 minutes, 30 minutes call with you on Zoom to look at your code for a code review. If you have added any refactoring, new features or all that, I'd like to see it. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time. See you next. Bye.